What is your energy body? And how do you access real, sustainable vitality without reaching for coffee, sugar, or a can of Red Bull while you push yourself through the day? Most of us are taught to think of energy as something we consume or force, but beneath that effort is something far more subtle. Quiet sensations, gentle currents, and an intelligence moving through the body that doesn't shout to be heard. While many people are trying to get more energy, there are healers who are listening more deeply, exploring what's already there. You're listening to Stories. I'm your host, Delia Quigley, and today I'm joined by Lynn Goodman, who, along with her husband Saul, works with what they call light body activation, a unique system of meditative exercises for healing, consciousness, and adventure. It's fascinating work and a beautiful complement to any mind, body, or spiritual practice you may already have. This isn't about fixing yourself or striving for more. It's about learning to sense, allowing, and remembering a quieter way of being in your body. I've known Lynn for over 30 years, and I'm delighted to bring her wisdom, her experience, and her deep listening into this conversation on the energy body. All right, let's begin.
Sure. Yeah, it's really nice to be here, Delia. I was thinking this morning about our history together a little bit, and I first met you taking yoga classes with you. And so that was a big awareness for me and a big journey for me to learn how to move and work with my body in that way. And at that time, I was learning to be a shiatsu practitioner. So learning how to give treatments to others to help balance and manage their energy system. And that evolved into working with what I call light body activation, which my husband, Saul Goodman, has developed. And this is a way to work with a person can work with their own energy system from the inside out to learn how to feel, adjust, and activate their energy body. And instead of seeing it as like a vague idea, to begin to really feel it, learn how to identify and work with some of the components of the energy body, and then use that to enrich our daily life, our health, our communication skills, and for entertainment.
So in yoga practice, we call it prana, right? It's the life force, but it also refers to the breath. And oftentimes in practice, you'll be instructed to focus on your breath, certain inhale numbers and exhale numbers of exhales to increase your energy. So is that in relationship to what you teach?
For sure, working with the breath is a great inroad to feeling and working with our bodies in all kinds of ways. As you know, changing our breath immediately changes the physiology of our body. It doesn't just calm the system. We can adjust how oxygen is running through the body. And it's been a while since I was in the yoga world directly, but working with the prana to adjust and change the energy flows in the body, even the meridians.
So in the body work, okay, so the body work in shiatsu Shin Tai, right? Is that so you prepare the person's body through this energy work physically to prepare them for the more going deeper into the energy work?
People don't have to necessarily do both, but coming to a practitioner to get a treatment where they're putting their hands on you to work either physically and energetically, create more freedom and balance in your body is one thing. But people can also learn how to work with their body and energy system through working with their awareness and their mind. So you don't have to get shiatsu treatments or Shin Tai treatments or do yoga to then learn how to work with your own energy system.
So give me an example. Yes, give me an example.
So an example, like I could go to a treatment practitioner and maybe someone would work with my shoulder joints, my spine, maybe they'd adjust my heart chakra and work with some meridian flows. It could involve different layers of the body, right? Even a chiropractic neck adjustment could be part of a treatment. But then I can also sit quietly on my own and do some simple breath work and especially slow motion movement. This stimulates an immediate connection to feeling more subtle sensations in the body. And what is subtle sensations are more the vibrational parts of ourselves, our meridians. I mentioned chakras. Like we can read about chakras in a book, we can have an idea about them, we can paint them, we can do meditations on them. But until someone can really bridge into the body and feel a sensation of the chakra and how it's interfacing with their physical body, that's when we really start to understand what is a chakra. And I'm not pretending to know the full answer to that question at all. But the light body activation work is a framework, a system, so that someone has some kind of developmental sequence to lead them into this ability to feel and then work with these parts of themselves. Instead of it just being an idea, it becomes a visceral experience. And then we watch and look for evidence of that in our life.
So, what's the preparation a person would need before, before taking that on?
Some of the most, there's just a few simple principles that we use. And one of them is breathing. And often we do a very slow, quiet breath along the back of the nostrils. That immediately brings the nervous system into what's called the parasympathetic mode, rest and relaxation. So we can use breath in many ways, but we use this very simple way of breathing to help calm the body and increase our sensitivity. And then a type of movement that anyone can use is very slow motion movement. So even right now, while you're sitting here and listening to this, we can sit and turn your head as slowly to the right. And you turn it as slow as possible until you invoke a floating sensation. And usually people can get a sense of that almost immediately. And this kind of slow motion movement is very unusual for most people. Usually we're in a hurry to like get to a pose or get to the next thing. But slow motion movement activates what we call the proprioceptive system. And this is a part of the nervous system that monitors alignment. So it's a part of our physiology. So certain type of breathing, certain type of movement immediately enhances someone's capability to feel and work with something like a chakra.
And so does this allow one to move deeper into what I call the five bodies, right? So, all right, so the physical you've been talking about and the energy, what does it do to your energy? How does that affect you mentally, right? And then how does that deepen your intuitive connection or the deeper, trust to your intuition, I would say? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be part of it. I'm trying to remember what the beginning of your question
Okay,
was.
so connecting the physical energy to the mental. We'll start with that. Okay, how does that enhancing energy through the breath allow the mental to calm and focus?
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned the physical energy and the mental bodies. Like there's different layers to we talk a lot about the outer body system. Other words that have been used for it are the aura or the energy field. So certain types of breath work and movement and awareness activate this energy body. So you're saying your podcast focus on the five bodies, right? And I think it's the physical body, etheric, emotional, mental, and spiritual.
Yes.
Is that
Yeah. So the physical energy,
words.
mental, wisdom or intellectual,
Wisdom.
they call it, and the bliss,
Okay.
or I call the divine.
So yes, this type of activating the proprioceptive system through certain kinds of movements and breath immediately puts someone into deeper contacts with those layers of themselves. And then on purpose, you can go to, say, the mental body and stimulate it more, activate it more. How would you know that? You learn how to feel it and notice the cues. Just like learning how to ride a bike. How do you learn it? Someone gives you a few cues. You fall down a few times at first, and then once you're riding, you know it, right? You feel it. And working with these different energy bodies, you learn how to feel and recognize it, and then how to play with it and be creative and do different things that you want to do with it.
So how does this relate to meditation?
Well, meditation is it's a way of focusing the mind and our system to bring us to states that we want to do on purpose. That's one way I would define meditation. So this is a purposeful way of entering into the energy matrix that permeates and emanates from our physical body and consciously learning how to use it. And why would we want to do that? Because first of all, it's activating naturally more in many of us, especially if you're listening to this podcast right now. Your system is already activating and changing. I do light body work now. While I am out in the world, I can activate certain things maybe when I'm grocery shopping, but that's different than most of the time when I'm doing this work. I'm in a quiet space and I'm really focused, and it looks like I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting still, right? But then there's a lot happening at these vibrational layers.
All right. So give me an example. How would you be using that grocery shopping?
If I was grocery shopping, I on purpose make my outer body more dense and more closed, less permeable. I don't want to be wide open when I'm out in a public place moving around with a lot of people.
Okay. So let's hold that here, right? And that's because of the energy that they are sending out from their bodies?
Partly, yeah. There's a lot of, I'll take it even further. If I was in a shopping mall, there's a lot of emotional, psychological, I would say debris floating around, and a lot of desires and different experiences people are having. And I wouldn't want that necessarily it would be like going out in a snowstorm without a coat.
Okay, so you have a sense of protection that you put around yourself, because do you
Yeah.
literally feel people's energy or emotions when you're out in crowds of people?
If I was really in a very permeable and expanded state, yes, it would be overwhelming if I didn't just make a subtle correction. And it can even be as simple as just thinking, I think parents have used this idea for the last years, like a safety bubble. Just tell your child, oh, put on your safety bubble. This idea I've heard parents use with autistic children, because they naturally often have very permeable outer bodies. And that's why they can't regulate the amount of sensory information. It's just crowding in on them with not much protection. So they wear headphones. They learn different ways to monitor and manage this sensory overload, really. And this is what led me into this work. I would say I'm more on that spectrum of being over permeable, like some people would just say, oh, she's very sensitive. And then somebody else, you might say, oh, they're so thick-skinned, things just bounce right off them. Some people are thicker skinned. They have a more dense outer body layers naturally, stronger. It functions, the energy field around us functions as a semi-permeable membrane. It's like a cell. And so we can learn how to manage that consciously.
Have we injured it or damaged it through all, the EMFs, electromagnetic radiation in the atmosphere around us, 5G cell phone towers, cell phones and internet? So, what have we done to ourselves as human beings, to our energy bodies?
That's a really good question. For sure, all this digital information and the magnetic and electrical currents that are moving through our atmosphere can erode and even disintegrate somewhat the outer body layers. But they also can stimulate activity. in a positive way. It's just that we haven't learned how to manage it. For example, watching a lot of digital media, and especially bright lights like on a video game, it really can stimulate the kundalini channels. But it's stimulating them in someone who hasn't been training with a yogi, hasn't been working with their diet, hasn't been necessarily, and usually the opposite, they're treating their physical body pretty badly, drinking Red Bull and playing video games for hours. Now that is kind of a recipe for health and mental health disaster, because now the lights and the digital imaging stimulates a lot of activity in the mental body and in the kundalini channels. And then drinking something like Red Bull, it's not just sugar, it's full of caffeine, very expansive. Yeah, and eating like potato chips. And so you're doing all these things together. And yeah, especially over time, it can really damage it's like injuring a muscle. If you went on a 2-mile run and you had never even gone on a run before, you're going to injure yourself. So if we're doing things to stimulate these systems to move and open and activate with no idea how to regulate it. Yeah.
So this internalization then, in the light body work, I know that, much of your work has gone deeper into then sensitizing that energy to use in a form of a telepathy, being able to what?
Telepathy, I would say, is a way to communicate that transcends linear language. So we're communicating more through imagery and impression, using our bodies as if the body is the phone. We use our phone, like right now, I'm on the phone with Delia. We're both on the Zoom. I can see her, she can see me. And then I'm using words, then she's using words. We go back and forth, right, Delia, to communicate. So telepathy, I would say, is a more accurate and high frequency way to exchange information. It's more direct.
It's more direct, but people would be like, well, that's an invasion,
Yes.
of my mind. If you could break in and, I've read studies, so all the experiments that are going on with telepathy or projection that's happening in the world today, I'm sure much more advanced than I can even imagine at the moment. But you've been working with it pretty steadily. But what did you tell me, that you don't really talk about it much because people, that's what we just said, the mind control.
Yeah, I didn't really ever have a fear of it, but realizing through the years, a lot of people I've interacted with, they tend to have a sense of fear the minute they hear the word. They think of it, like you said, as mind control, or that it could be invasive, or maybe if I'm sitting next to them that I can read their mind. But to me, telepathy is not that experience at all. And in fact, when someone's really operating on the frequency bands where this can occur, there's a natural protection really in there. Like if someone wants to manipulate or mind control, in general, their energy system isn't even to an expansion rate that's going to really let them interact at those frequencies. When I say we, I'm talking about Saul Goodman, who's my husband, and we work together and obviously live together. So that's why I'm saying we. And he developed most of this work, or at least it came through.
Wait. So do you practice on each other?
Well, we definitely do treatments with each other, and we actively, we're exploring light body work together all the time. Right now, we've been working on a project related to human photosynthesis. So we go outside and we're learning how to absorb light and metabolize it directly into energy in the body, in the physical body. We do use the light body work when you say telepathy. Let's say if we're having friction or an argument, not that I would ever have an argument. Right?
Heaven forbid.
Now, this is where it is so useful to use in the daily life. If you just know a few simple things to adjust in the chakras and the mental body when we're in friction with somebody. Did you ever have an experience where you go try to talk to them? You've had maybe a disagreement, then let's talk about this. And I say what I think, then he says what he thinks, and it gets worse.
Right.
And it's like, it almost can create more conflict, and then you're caught in a power struggle. If two people can learn to pull back, make some adjustments in their system, it's like a miracle almost every time. I'm still excited and surprised at it. Within 5-10 minutes, he's coming to me or I'm coming to him, and all of a sudden there's more harmony. There's more harmonic resonance between our mental ideas and our emotional state because we made some simple adjustments in our energy center.
All right, so let's take that. What were those adjustments? Does that come back to the breath, or just taking a moment, sitting and doing some of that meditative work?
A main one with that is often the solar plexus gets very activated in people when they're trying to assert their own individual ideas or perspectives. And so to lift attention to the heart. I mean, it sounds so cliche in a way, so new age, but it's very specific that if we just even bring our attention to the chest, to the heart, and especially to what we refer to as the female heart center, which is a little higher up on the sternum, and just feel and generate a vortex of energy there. And you feel it really vibrate into the sternum. That alone helps decrease power struggle and increase harmony between two people that were not having harmony. So it's so simple.
It's so simple. I know it's always so simple, right? So you're just bringing your awareness to that area, because that's that area that, well, we know that the heart is really the main brain that we have, the compassionate brain. But this takes practice beforehand in order to be able to just okay, zero in on the heart and let's get this over with.
Yeah, and I would say to use it in that example, the most challenging part for people is usually, including me, to remember to do it. Because when you're in the lower frequency state,
right,
in anger, frustration, fear, it's hard to remember to take responsibility and calm down enough to even feel into the body in that way. But people can do it from a very simple level to very advanced. Even just feeling into the chest immediately will help a certain percentage of the friction resolve. And then if someone learns how to rotate their chakra in one way, then the other, there's a front and back component to the chakras. And often they are out of synchrony. So you can work with them. And I've never read one chakra book maybe one that talked about the back component of the chakras. Often people are just focused on the front. So you can work with them. People can learn how to traction them in and out, create more synthesis or synchrony between them. And then there's interrelationships between the chakras. It can be complicated or advanced, but it can also be quite simple.
Okay.
Like anyone can learn some of these skills.
I keep coming back to the fact that first three bodies, that our physical, our energy, and our mental, are more fragile bodies because they're so susceptible to the external world. And we're very much affected that way. But also in the chakras, if we're going to go into the chakras for a moment, we have the first, second, and third chakras are also very fragile in terms of their relationship to the external world. Right. And so the fear in the first chakra and, guilt and shame, all of these emotions that play into that. So then in your meditation practice, I call it meditation practice, but I think what you want to say is that it's the light body work practice. Am I correct?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the light body work practice, that's when you would work with the chakras in order to, what are we doing? We're strengthening our awareness or our connection there so that when we are confronted with that anger, I mean, I'm thinking of the world today. I mean, there's so much anger, and you find yourself in these situations where there's so much anger, then you're just tapping into the heart. What are the steps we want to know about to get there?
Yeah, and actually it's interesting you bring up, current world situation, because so many people that are interested in health, healing, and their energy system, their consciousness has already been growing quite a bit. They're usually very interested in peace and harmony and increasing the well-being of all people and our planet, right? And so it can be very empowering to learn how to input. This is what I use telepathy mostly for, how to input different frequencies into the information grid of the planet, and the global brain. We can infuse streams of heart energy, for example, into that. And to me, this is not nothing. This is not an idea. This is truly like nourishing a child with really good quality food rather than giving them chicken McNuggets.
Right.
So to work with our, say, the heart chakra, we can connect it to the mental body and the third eye and learn how to, we can all just imagine sending love out into the world. And then we can learn a few simple steps. And boy, does it get even more effective. I think that many humans are working on creating systems or frameworks that we can learn how to operate our system. First of all, our energy system is still evolving and it's in a rapid state of evolution right now. So how would we even know how to use it? We hardly even know we have it yet, right? So we've been creating a series of online resources and classes for years to help that anybody who's interested, if they want to try that system, they can use it. And it will be a step-by-step framework to help keep them safe and healthy as they're growing.
Okay, so let's say that's Shin Tai International.
Yeah, that's our website, yes.
Okay, shintaiinternational.com. I know you have some little podcast on there.
Yeah, actually, I did a light body activation podcast for 3 years during COVID.
Yeah, there you go.
And so it's been a few years, but there's a lot of material in that that's free for anyone to go through whenever they want. It's on any podcast platform. And I would say, in a way, some of that podcast, some of the work is pretty advanced. So most people, if they got interested in it, they'd want to back up and go a little slower through some of the components of what's covered. But there's a lot of information there. We have a YouTube channel where Saul is leading a lot of different guided processes. So there's a lot of free materials that people are welcome to use and find out about. And there's other people in the world that are doing work to help learn how to manage how to work with our energy systems. I haven't seen any systems the same as ours, but I'm sure there's a lot of good work being done out there every day.
So that's your intention through the work that you're doing. The light body work is to share peace. And in sharing peace, everyone learns to share it, and we just continue to share it.
Yeah, and I would say my purpose is to, I want to share information to empower others to use their bodies more effectively, however they want, for their health, for their personal relationships, for doing world work, for spreading information that they think is valuable, or just enjoying their lives more, enjoying this beautiful planet more. And so I enjoy sharing the information. If someone wants it, believes in it, thinks it has value, it's there for them to use. But yeah, I think that we have barely begun to recognize and learn how to utilize the full potential of our bodies. Yeah, activate once our personal system is more clear and expanded, we can then activate and create a stronger alignment with what I call the soul body, which maybe it's a word thing. I think this is what you're saying is the wisdom body, or
the divine body.
The divine body. I experience that I have a personal soul frequency, a higher frequency part of myself, and then I think we have group souls, planetary souls. It could go on and on. But activating our soul body and our soul frequencies and aligning them more deeply with our physical system, right there, enhances our leverage so much for change in the world and for empowerment of each person. It's like some people might not like this metaphor, but so many people now are using AI agents, right, to do their work. It's like using a digital information center to help you manage things more easily. And I think that we all have our own soul agent that we're not really connected to and using. And boy, does it make life easier when you create more alignment with that part of your energy system.
You've been listening to my interview with Lynn Goodman, speaking on light body activation and hopefully inspiring you to look into the amazing work she and her husband Saul Goodman are teaching. You can learn more on their website, Shin Tai International, and I'll leave their contact information in the text portion of this episode in case you missed it. You've been listening to Stories, and I'm your host, Delia Quigley, and you can access past podcast episodes and all kinds of other delights on my deliaquigley.substack.com site. Thanks so much for being here. Until next time.